You expect us to believe that, Dad? Chloe, my long-estranged daughter, stood beside her mother, Brenda, both of them radiating a theatrical indignation that clashed absurdly with the opulence of my newly acquired home. They hadn't come for a reunion. They'd arrived unannounced, forcing their way past my security detail to unleash a storm of threats and demands just moments after I'd concluded a critical morning video conference. My new life, carefully constructed over decades, felt like it was teetering on a precipice. I'd just learned, barely a week ago, of my true parentage, a discovery that had rocked my world. For over 40 years, I was simply Alex Thorne, a self-made man, a titan in the global tech industry, CEO of the formidable Veritas Group. Now, apparently, I was the lost son of the Sterling family, an old money dynasty whose empire, I'd since learned, was crumbling faster than ancient parchment. Before I could even meet my supposed birth parents, Brenda and Chloe were here, demanding $1 million in backchild support. They threatened to leak my story, twisting it into a narrative of abandonment, ensuring my birth family, especially the powerful and traditional Sterlings, would disown me before they even truly welcomed me. They assumed my current wealth was merely a gift from my newfound heritage, blissfully unaware that I had built my empire from dust, brick by arduous brick, after they'd stripped me bare. My butler, Jennings, a man of impeccable composure, had discreetly knocked on my study door, his voice barely a whisper through the intercom. "Sir, a Ms. Brenda Miller insists on seeing you. She claims to be your former wife." A cold dread had seized me. I immediately muted my microphone, bringing the high-stakes board meeting to an abrupt close. Brenda. The name itself was a bitter memory. 17 years ago, when my fledgling company faced its first major financial crisis, she had emptied my accounts, taken our then 3-year-old daughter, Chloe, and vanished with a wealthy acquaintance. My private line had rung then, a number etched painfully into my memory. I stared at the screen, a familiar dread coiling in my gut, before finally answering. My current wife, Clara, and our daughter, Lily, would be home for lunch soon. I needed to deal with this before they arrived. Alex Thorne, Brenda's voice, sharp and venomous, cut through the line. "Living the high life, aren't we? In your grand mansion, while Chloe and I scraped by." I scoffed, a humorless sound. "Scraped by? That was your own doing, Brenda. You exploited my vulnerability, embezzled my funds. I didn't press charges then, but I could have. I suggest you leave before I call my legal team to handle your trespass." "Press charges? You dare?" Her voice soared, shrill with indignation. "You're delusional, Alex. I stood by you for 7 years, suffered countless indignities. What's wrong with taking a little money when I left?" I just laughed, a bitter, mocking sound. 7 years, from college sweethearts to married life. I had never once let Brenda suffer. In university, she'd leveraged our relationship to pressure me into buying designer handbags far beyond our means. After we married, she quit every job she disliked, demanding I hire a full-time staff of 2 to cater to her every whim. While I toiled late into the night, building my startup, she indulged in lavish spending sprees with her friends, never once caring about my struggles. And I, fool that I was, had never blamed her, only myself, for not providing her with a life of effortless luxury. It wasn't until I met Clara that I understood what a true partnership, a real marriage, entailed: 2 people supporting each other, building something together, not one constantly taking while the other gave. "What's so funny?" Brenda's voice sharpened, edged with anger. "Nothing," I said, my smile fading. "Just realizing you were right. Being with me truly was a hardship." "So why are you here now? If I'm such a useless, pathetic man, as you so often claimed, why bother?" "Alex Thorne," Brenda began, but a younger female voice interrupted, muffled, as if someone pulled her back. "Mom, why waste words? Get to the point." That was Chloe. My heart seized. She was barely 3 when Brenda took her. I called Brenda then, desperate, crying. "Brenda, how can you be so cruel? Chloe is only 3. Do you really want her to grow up without a father?" Brenda's cold laughter still echoed in my memory. "A father? What good is a useless man like you? Chloe already has a godfather, a real man, Mr. Henderson. She'll be better off in North America with him. Oh, and by the way, I've officially changed her name to Chloe Henderson. She's got no connection to you, Alex Thorne. Not a single penny. She'd hung up on my pleas, leaving me utterly shattered. I forced myself out of the painful reverie, walking to the large window overlooking the drive. I parted the curtains just a crack. Below, a tall, slender young woman with a high ponytail stood beside Brenda, my daughter. Despite everything, I had never stopped trying to find her, following her progress from afar. She was my blood. My eyes burned, tears streaming down my cheeks. I remembered her small figure waiting by the door every evening, hugging me tight, saying, "Daddy, you worked so hard." That simple phrase had been my fuel, my motivation, through countless exhausting days. "We're here with a proposition." Brenda's voice, now calmer, more calculating, brought me back to the present. She sounded confident, almost assured of victory. "What proposition?" I asked, feigning interest. "I hear you're the lost son of the Sterling family," she declared. "Wealthy beyond imagination, right? This mansion, I bet they gifted it to you. You've clearly inherited a lot." "I'm not greedy, Alex. Just give us $1 million for Chloe's 17 years of child support. Otherwise," she paused, a sinister chuckle, "we'll tell everyone you abandoned your wife and child. Your precious Sterling family, so concerned with appearances, won't claim you then, will they?" I frowned, a sliver of genuine confusion. How did she know about the Sterlings? A week ago, at the end of the month, my private email had received an anonymous tip claiming to be from my birth parents, complete with DNA test results. They stated I was their son, accidentally swapped at birth 4 decades ago. I'd immediately tasked my assistant, Ben, to verify the documents. Once confirmed, I'd contacted the Sterlings. They seemed incredibly busy. All my calls were handled by an assistant. My birth father, Arthur Sterling, was reportedly swamped with company affairs, unable to spare a moment. My birth mother, Eleanor, had a sudden flare-up of gout and couldn't travel. They promised to arrange a meeting in a few days. My gut told me something was off. They likely didn't want the news of their lost son to break while Sterling Industries was in such a precarious state. It could expose their vulnerability. I instructed Ben to dig deeper into their company's finances. Sure enough, Sterling Industries, built on a narrow, outdated business model, was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. Revealing their CEO wasn't their biological son would be a death blow. Ben had asked anxiously, "Mr. Thorne, should we inject capital? They are your birth parents, after all." "Not yet," I'd replied decisively. "Any investment requires a personal meeting first. Ben, arrange a trip to Northwood. Discreetly gauge their situation and express our potential interest in a partnership. Do not reveal my identity." I needed to understand their true intentions before acting. But I never imagined Brenda would get wind of such a closely guarded secret. Just as I was about to hang up, Chloe's voice cut through the line, sharper than her mother's. "Dad, what are you waiting for? Have you decided? Transfer the $1 million, or prepare to lose your reputation." "Chloe," I whispered, my voice trembling, hearing her speak after all these years. "Is it really you? I've searched for you everywhere. You were so small when your mother took you abroad. Look at you, all grown up now." I gazed at the thin girl below, my eyes welling up again. "So what?" Chloe snapped, cutting me off, impatience lacing her tone. "What's the point of these sentimental words? You don't want to pay, do you? You really are as selfish and pathetic as Mom always said. Do you think a few emotional words will make us drop our demands? Dream on. And don't call me daughter. I don't have a useless, despicable father like you." I reeled, the words like physical blows. How could the daughter who once adored me utter such cruelty? "My child," I choked. "Child? What child? Just transfer the money, or Mom and I will ruin you today." It was useless to say more. I ended the call. Let them scream. I ignored their enraged shouts from below. Suddenly, Chloe pulled a megaphone from her backpack, adjusted a few dials, and screamed into it. "Everyone, look! This man abandoned my mother and me 17 years ago. Now he lives in this luxurious mansion, but he won't even pay child support." The amplified shriek was deafening, sending birds scattering. I saw the triumphant smiles on Brenda and Chloe's faces. If I let them continue, my reputation would be in tatters. But they'd forgotten this was a high-security private estate. Before they could utter another word, guards swarmed them, pulling them away. The commotion quickly ended. The silence was unsettling. I knew Brenda wouldn't give up easily. I just didn't expect her next move to be so swift. That Friday evening, an email arrived from my birth parents. They claimed their business matters were settled and invited Clara, Lily, and me to dinner that weekend. The address was for the Grand Oak, a renowned upscale restaurant in Northwood, a place I'd never used for business myself. Given Sterling Industries' financial woes, I knew such an invitation wouldn't be easy for them to extend. But they were, after all, my birth parents, and they were inviting me. It was only right to accept. I replied, confirming our attendance. On Sunday, at the appointed time, Clara, Lily, and I arrived. As I reached for the door to the private dining room the Sterlings had reserved, Clara gently touched my arm. She was visibly nervous. This was her first time meeting my birth parents. She smoothed her hair, her cheeks flushed. "Honey, does this dress look okay?" I smiled, pulling her into a hug and kissing her forehead. "You're beautiful as always. But today, you're especially radiant." Clara's blush deepened. She gently pushed me away. "Oh, you. Stop teasing. Let's go. Your parents are waiting." Just as we made a faint sound at the door, before I could even touch the handle, it swung open. Marcus Sterling, the Sterlings' recognized heir, the one whose place I supposedly occupied, stood there. He offered a strained smile. "Alex, you're here. Come in. Father and mother are waiting to begin." Clara, Lily, and I followed him into the room. But the moment I crossed the threshold, I froze. Inside, besides my birth parents, were two other people, the very two I never wanted to see again. Brenda and Chloe. At the sound of our entrance, Brenda, who had been nibbling on some nuts, looked up. Her eyes met mine, filled with a triumphant smugness, as if the incident with the guards had never happened. Ignoring the clearly uncomfortable stares of my birth parents, she spoke, her voice laced with mock sweetness. "Oh, Alex Thorne, so you finally decided to grace us with your presence." I remained silent, a slight frown creasing my brow. She didn't care, continuing her taunt, drawing out her words with sarcasm. "See? I told you. This could all have been settled with a simple $1 million for Chloe's child support. But no, you had to make me come all the way here, in front of your real parents, to cause a scene. Looks like someone's fancy title as an heir is about to vanish, isn't it?" She finished with a cold smirk. Then, disregarding my birth mother Eleanor's icy glare, she leaned over and grasped Eleanor's hand, her voice dripping with false sincerity. "Mother Sterling, though Alex and I are divorced, I still wish to call you mother. You don't know the half of it. Your own son, when his company failed, abandoned Chloe and me, forcing us to wander as exiles for 17 long years." Her voice caught, and she dramatically pulled out a handkerchief to dab at her eyes. "Mother, you must help us find justice." "That's right, Grandma," Chloe chimed in, rushing forward with a sugary smile. "I'm your long-lost granddaughter. They say blood is thicker than water. I know you and Grandpa are the kindest people. You wouldn't be as heartless as Dad, leaving Mom and me to fend for ourselves." The two of them, in their synchronized act, transformed the quiet private dining room into a suffocating circus of accusations. I watched their false expressions, saying nothing, simply stepping back and tightly grasping Clara's hand behind me. She squeezed back, a warm reassurance that calmed me. She knew the truth of those years, understood what I had endured. In her eyes, there was no blame, only anger at the two women twisting the truth, and a deep compassion for me. "Is this true?" My birth father, Arthur Sterling, finally spoke. After listening to their entire performance, he slammed his hand on the table, glaring at me. "Our Sterling family has upheld honor for generations. How could we possibly have someone so despicable, abandoning the wife who stood by you for 7 years? I, Arthur Sterling, will never accept a man like you as my son. And as for the Sterling legacy, don't even dream of a share." Brenda immediately smirked, her voice laced with venomous triumph. "Alex Thorne, when you abandoned Chloe and me, did you ever imagine this day?" Looking at the furious, triumphant faces before me, I felt a strange sense of amusement. It clicked. This wasn't a family dinner. It was an ambush, orchestrated to humiliate me. "Is that it?" I said, a chilling smile playing on my lips. "Then there's no need to continue. We're leaving." I took Clara's and Lily's hands, turning to exit. Just then, Lily, usually shy and quiet, unexpectedly pulled her hand free. With a courage I hadn't known she possessed, she spun around and shouted, "My daddy didn't abandon them." Her young face was flushed with anger, her voice echoing through the room. "They cleaned out all our money when Daddy's company was in crisis, and they indirectly caused Grandpa's death." Everyone froze, their eyes fixed on Lily, including Clara and me. Sensing my gaze, Lily looked up, offering a sweet, determined smile. "Don't worry, Daddy. I read all about it in the old articles. I won't let them slander you." Her unwavering gaze warmed my heart. The first to lose composure was Brenda. She practically shrieked, "You insolent brat! What lies are you spouting? I'll tear that mouth of yours." She lunged at Lily, but I swiftly stepped in front of my daughter, blocking her path. Seeing this, Chloe joined in, her voice shrill. "This child is completely uneducated, making up stories at such a young age." What surprised me most was Marcus Sterling, who had stood silently by the door until now. He suddenly spoke, defending Brenda and Chloe with vague but pointed words, insinuating Lily was fabricating lies. Lily bit her lip, her eyes welling up, and buried her face in Clara's arms. "Mommy, I'm not lying. I really did read about Daddy." Clara gently embraced her, stroking her back. "It's all right, sweetie. Mommy and Daddy believe you." She looked up at me, a resolute glint in her eyes. I understood instantly. I pulled Clara and Lily behind me and faced my birth parents squarely. My voice was cold and resolute. I had intended to preserve some semblance of dignity for the sake of shared blood, but it seems that's no longer necessary. With that, I pulled out my phone and called Ben. He was already partly aware of the situation, so a few clipped sentences were all he needed. Everyone in the room assumed I was bluffing. Arthur and Eleanor remained composed, even sipping their tea nonchalantly. Marcus walked over, placing a condescending hand on my shoulder. "Alex, do you have any idea of the Sterling family's standing in the business world? Let me tell you, even the wealthiest man in your city would show my father respect. So, I advise you to be sensible. Apologize to mother and father, admit your mistakes, and offer a modest settlement to your ex-wife and daughter. You might not inherit the Sterling legacy, but a luxury car or a small villa wouldn't be out of reach from mother and father's generosity." He grinned, a smug, self-satisfied expression. "What do you say? Have I ever steered you wrong?" I stared at Marcus, a faint, chilling smile touching my lips. "So I should thank you, you fraudulent heir, for your sage advice?" Marcus's face instantly darkened, flushing crimson with anger. He opened his mouth to retort, but couldn't. He was over 40, too old for childish outbursts, and his adoptive parents were watching. So he seethed in silence. Just then, his phone rang. His eyes lit up at the caller ID, and he quickly stepped outside. As he passed me, I caught a glimpse of the screen. "Mr. Jameson, Nexus Group." A slight curve of my lips, and I waited. The second act was about to begin. The call lasted less than 3 minutes, but for Marcus, each second must have felt like an eternity. When he pushed the door open and returned, he looked utterly deflated, his face pale as a ghost. He whispered a few words to Arthur and Eleanor. In an instant, their composure crumbled. "What did you say?" Eleanor stammered, her lips trembling. "Nexus Group, they've canceled our partnership?" Arthur slammed his fist on the table, shaking with rage. "Absurd. Utterly preposterous. How can they simply cancel a partnership like that? Do they think business is a game?" He closed his eyes, extending a hand. "Marcus, give me the phone. I'll speak to them directly." But Marcus just shook his head, a look of despair on his face. "It's no use, Father. I just spoke to Mr. Jameson's assistant. He said we've offended the true power behind Nexus Group. There's no way to salvage it." Eleanor's voice quivered, a sob catching in her throat. "Oh, my heavens. Who have we offended?" A ping sounded Marcus's phone. He checked the new message, and all the color drained from his face. He looked like a sheet of paper. "What is it?" Arthur demanded. "Father, we're truly finished this time," Marcus whispered, his voice trembling. "All the companies that sign partnership agreements with us, they're all sending cancellation notices." Simultaneously, he buried his face in his hands, slumping to the floor, all his usual dignity gone. Arthur staggered, his face ashen, muttering incoherently. "How can this be? How? Our ancestors must protect us. Suddenly, as if remembering something, Marcus snapped his head up, his bloodshot eyes fixed on me, filled with a ferocious accusation. Alex Thorne, was it you? Yes, it must be you. What have you done behind our backs? Who exactly are you? I smirked, a soft, dangerous sound. Who am I? I reached into my jacket pocket, pulled out a business card, and tossed it onto the table before him, as if to a beggar. Take a closer look. Use your sharp eyes to see clearly. Marcus snatched the card with a trembling hand. His eyes widened, his whole body going rigid as he read the bold lettering. Veritas Group, Chairman of the Board, Alex Thorne. His voice was barely a whisper, yet each word echoed through the silent room. Immediately, everyone except Clara and Lily stared at me, their faces a mix of horror and disbelief. Marcus stammered, No, it can't be. How can this be? I raised an eyebrow slightly, my voice calm but chilling. It can't be? Tell me, what's impossible? I looked directly at him, my gaze unwavering. When I first learned the Sterling family was in trouble, I considered helping. After all, blood is blood. But it seems some people have the hearts of wolves, never considering me family at all. Realizing the truth, Marcus's expression shifted instantly. He plastered on a fawning smile. Alex, it's a misunderstanding. All of it. It's those two women. He angrily pointed at Brenda and Chloe. They lied to me and father. If they hadn't insisted they were your abandoned wife and child, we never would have. Before Marcus could finish, Brenda suddenly slammed her hand on the table, standing up and shouting, her face contorted with fury. Marcus Sterling, don't you dare lie. You came to me yourself, promising me $300,000 if I played the abandoned wife and mother in front of your parents. Now you're trying to blame me? You're not trying to pay, are you? Give me my $300,000. Shut your mouth, you fool. Marcus's face turned crimson with rage, shaking, but he couldn't refute her. Born into wealth, he'd never faced a common woman like Brenda. He could only clench his jaw, unable to argue back. I glanced back at Clara, who held Lily's hand. Taking advantage of Marcus and Brenda's furious argument, I quickly led my wife and daughter away from the chaos. Behind us, Eleanor's pathetic cries echoed. Alex, my son, followed by Arthur's furious roar. You ungrateful wretch. We raised you, gave you life. How could you do this to the Sterling family? I didn't bother to turn back, simply driving away from the restaurant. That evening, I personally took Clara and Lily to the night market they'd always wanted to visit. In the past, I'd worried about hygiene and never allowed it. But tonight, as Lily held up a skewer of candied fruit, her eyes sparkling, and said, Daddy, try this, it's so sweet. The sugary tang melted on my tongue, and I realized that sometimes a little indulgence, even unhygienic street food, was perfectly fine. As for the Sterling family, I had suspected from the beginning that Brenda and Chloe's sudden appearance was orchestrated. The moment I saw them in that private dining room, my suspicions were confirmed. Marcus Sterling, as the presumed head of the family, would naturally never openly reveal the truth about the swapped infants. And how could someone like Brenda and Chloe possibly know such a closely guarded secret? There was only one explanation. Someone had deliberately leaked the information to them, intending to use them to stir up trouble and undermine my position within the Sterling family. Connecting all the dots, the puppet master could only be Marcus Sterling, as he stood to gain the most. He just never expected Brenda to turn on him so brazenly, exposing his scheme right in front of his parents, and then shamelessly demanding her payment. I took a bite of Lily's grilled mushroom skewer, savory and delicious, when my phone vibrated. Without even looking, I knew it would be the Sterlings. Since leaving the restaurant, they had called countless times. I blocked one number after another, yet they were like persistent barnacles. Finally, I messaged Ben. If the Sterling family dares to bother me or my family again, tell them that no matter the cost, I will ensure the name Sterling vanishes from this world. Sure enough, after receiving that warning, they fell silent, not a peep more. They understood that I had the power to make good on my threat. I recalled how, initially, when I learned of Sterling Industries' financial troubles, I still believed that even without the benefit of their upbringing, they were my birth parents. I had instructed Ben to discreetly offer a partnership to help them through their difficulties. I never imagined my goodwill would be met with such venom. Now, I had withdrawn all potential investments, leaving them to taste the bitter fruit of their own actions. The absurd drama finally concluded with the official bankruptcy of Sterling Industries. According to Ben, they were forced to mortgage all their remaining assets to cover debts. Now, they were crammed into a small, dilapidated rented apartment, constantly bickering, making their neighbors restless. Brenda and Chloe hadn't been seen since the disastrous dinner. I assumed they had simply retreated, having lost their leverage. But I was wrong. One evening after work, they ambushed me right outside my company's entrance. Brenda no longer wore her arrogant, scornful air. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes torn and dirty, looking as if she had been wandering for days. The moment she saw me, she pulled Chloe down, and they both collapsed to their knees. Before I could speak, Chloe crawled closer, weeping uncontrollably. "Daddy, please, save Mom. Please, Daddy." She pulled a crumpled medical report from her shirt, her voice trembling. "Look, Daddy, Mom has stage 2 breast cancer." I leaned down and looked. On the paper, in stark black and white, were the words, "Diagnosis, stage 2 breast carcinoma." Chloe continued, sobbing. "Daddy, we were forced. Marcus Sterling deceived us, promised us money, then didn't pay and even threw us out, reclaiming the apartment he'd rented for us. Now we have nowhere to live. We're on the streets. Daddy, please, just help Mom with her medical bills, and we'll leave. We'll go far away. We'll never bother you again." Behind her, Brenda wiped away tears, her voice choked with sobs. "Alex, please, please save me, just this once. We were once husband and wife. Please, for the sake of our past, will you? Once I'm well, I swear, I'll never bother you again." I stooped, carefully examining the medical report. No signs of forgery, and in just a few days, Brenda had indeed visibly withered, her face haggard. She looked genuinely ill. I took a deep breath, keeping my voice level. "Stage 2 breast cancer. It's treatable. With money, there's a chance." At my words, Brenda's eyes suddenly lit up. She nodded frantically. "Yes, Alex, I knew it. I knew you wouldn't be heartless. Don't worry, I don't need much, just $500,000. Just give me $500,000, and I'll take the money and leave immediately. I promise, I'll never bother you again." I looked at her, my voice cold. "You misheard me. I didn't say I'd give you $500,000. Brenda froze, but quickly bit her lip, forcing a strained smile. $300,000 then. Just enough to save my life." I tilted my head toward Ben, who stood beside me. "Ben, do you have any cash on you? If not, please go to the nearest bank and withdraw $1,000 for this lady." "Yes, Mr. Thorne," Ben replied instantly, hurrying away. "What? $1,000? Brenda's eyes widened, her voice rising in an outraged shriek. "Alex Thorne, do you think I'm a beggar?" I merely glanced at her, my voice like ice. "A beggar? I only remember that once. You said $1,000 was more than enough." I looked directly into her eyes, my voice slow, each word cutting like a knife. "That year, after my foster father learned you'd emptied my accounts and fled abroad with Chloe, he fell gravely ill. I called you then, begging you for a mere $10,000, just enough to get him emergency medical care. I promised to repay you 100-fold, 1,000-fold. But what did you say?" I stared at her, my gaze chilling. "You said, 'Your father's fate is no concern of mine,' and then you blocked my number. Later, perhaps because I was so persistent and you found me annoying, you sent me exactly $1,000. The transfer memo read clearly, $1,000 is plenty. Don't be so shameless." At my words, Brenda trembled, her face ashen, but before she could react, a loud shout erupted from behind us. "You have no appointment. You can't go in." A group of security guards were struggling with someone at the entrance. Moments later, a burly man aggressively pushed past them, grabbed Brenda and Chloe by their collars, and roared, "You two conniving women! I've been searching everywhere for you. Damn it, you stole my money and ran off. I must have given you too much credit." At his voice, Brenda and Chloe both began to shake uncontrollably. Chloe frantically clung to my pants, as if to a life raft, sobbing, "Daddy, save me. Save me. Save your mother's ass." The man didn't finish his sentence before he kicked Chloe hard. She stumbled to the ground. He grabbed her hair, growling, "You little vixen. Still calling other men daddy? Listen carefully. You took my last name, so for the rest of your life, I'm the only father you'll ever acknowledge." It was then I understood. The man was Victor Henderson, the wealthy man Brenda had run off with all those years ago. For reasons unknown to me, Brenda must have later stolen his money and fled back to the country with Chloe, enraging him enough to storm my company in pursuit. Brenda looked at me, her eyes wide with a desperate plea, tears streaming down her face, begging for my help. But I simply turned away, silent. I instructed security, maintain order. Don't let them cause a scene in the lobby. Then, I walked around them, calmly got into my car, and drove away. After all, today was Lily's birthday. I wouldn't let these sordid affairs ruin her day. When I opened the door to my home, the warm, lively atmosphere immediately dispelled all my weariness. Lily was waiting by the door. The moment she saw me, she rushed forward and hugged me tight, her face beaming. "Daddy, you worked so hard." Behind her, Clara emerged from the kitchen, still wearing her apron, carrying a bowl of fragrant noodles. She smiled softly. "Sweetheart, Mommy's longevity noodles are ready. Go wash your hands with Daddy, and then we'll all eat." "Okay, Mommy." Lily grabbed my hand and pulled me inside. But instead of turning towards the washroom, she led me straight to her room. In her neat little space, Lily pulled a gray scarf from her drawer. The stitches were a little uneven, clearly handmade. She carefully wrapped it around my neck, smiling sweetly. "Daddy, it's getting cold. Please stay warm." Then, she giggled mischievously. "Oh, and Daddy, the present I'm making for Mommy isn't finished yet. Don't tell her. I want it to be a surprise." I gently stroked the soft wool scarf around my neck, a wave of warmth swelling within me, bringing tears to my eyes. My voice thick, I whispered, "You silly goose, it's your birthday. Why are you making presents for Mommy and Daddy?" Lily didn't answer, just smiled, her clear eyes shining with anticipation. "Daddy, do you like it?" I pulled her into a tight hug, hot tears rolling down my cheeks, unable to stop them. "Yes, I do. I love it so much." I choked, softly kissing her hair. "I love it, absolutely everything."